Hi, I'm Dr. Pierre, Samaan, and I'm Director of New Horizons Institute of Counseling, where I personally see clients in the office, and I also do phone and video counseling. My goal in life is to help you improve yourself. And if at any point during this video you have a question or concern, please reach out to me. Every question is important. There are no stupid questions. I want to help you get better, and I understand that it's important for some people to know credentials. I have a PhD in clinical pastoral counseling, 2 masters in theology and Christian clinical counseling, bachelors in psychology, 7 board certifications, along with numerous licenses. My whole credentials list and history are available on my website, link in the description. Over the past 30 years, I've worked as a mental health counselor at Humana Psychiatric Unit, psychiatric assistant at 2 separate clinics, all the way to operating my own counseling office in which I help people with anxiety, depression, PTSD, addiction, sexual abuse, crisis, marriage, family, and all passive life. As a matter of fact, my wife Linda has been dealing with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia most of her life, so I've had firsthand experience living with someone coping with a severe disorder. Linda gives me permission to speak about her as long as it helps others. I'm a Christian, and I use faith-based model of counseling. However, if you're put off by it, I still want you to reach out to someone. Even if it's not me, if you need help, I care more about you getting the help you need rather than seeing me. I would like to go through my credentials list in detail. If you want to follow along, you can open the list, link in the description. Otherwise, continue watching. Today we're going to talk about those credentials. Specifically, we're going to talk about my history in the field of counseling. We're going to talk about my history as a pastoral counselor, Christian pastoral counselor. We're going to talk about my history working in the psychiatric unit and being a psychiatric aide for several psychiatrists as I was entering the field. And we'll be understanding a little more about the certifications that I have. I hope that will be helpful for you, and I'm sure it'll be something that will give you more confidence in listening and hopefully getting that help that you would like to have. My PhD is in clinical pastoral counseling. I have 2 master's degrees. One is in theology, the other one is in Christian clinical counseling, and my bachelor's degree is in psychology. I spent many years part-time, going to college, taking courses. I was married, had 1 child first, and then the second child came along, worked full-time as I started my education, and I think I enjoyed that pretty well because I was able to take more time with each course, understanding and learning. I'm board certified in 7 areas. I'm board certified in marriage therapy, family therapy, sexual and sex abuse therapy. I have a board certification in crisis and abuse therapy. Crisis and abuse may include domestic violence. I have a board certification in adolescent therapy, substance abuse and addiction therapy, in which I was an instructor in Florida for those working on state certification as addictions professionals, and board certified as a clinical pastoral counselor. I'm nationally licensed by the Board of Examiners of the National Christian Counselors Association and nationally licensed as a temperament counselor by the National Board of Examiners of the National Christian Counselors Association as well. I have been a diplomate with the National Board of Christian Clinical Therapists, and I'm ordained as a pastoral care specialist, as a chaplain, and with Church of God, Anderson, Indiana. I attend non-denominational church. My covering church that covers us in Christian counseling is United Brethren in Christ. And I was an associate pastor at one time with that very church. I'm also a senior chaplain with the International Fellowship of Chaplains. I was a police chaplain, volunteer police chaplain for many years in Daytona Beach, Florida. So that was very exciting during the times, especially during the times of the spring break and the races and all that. So they used us quite a bit, and I certainly enjoyed that. My current status is as director of the United Brethren in Christ Domestic Mission Counseling Center. That's New Horizons Institute of Counseling. And as I said earlier, you can read about us on our webpage. As a clinical supervisor with the NCCA, I help students who are working on their credentials, getting their education, and I act as a mentor and supervisor for their national licensing through the NCCA. I'm a former instructor with the Net Training Institute. That's the institute in Florida that is the only Christian body that the state of Florida has certified to teach addictions professionals the required courses in order to reach their state certification as addictions professionals. So because addictions was 12-step spiritual foundation, they allowed us to approach it from a spiritual perspective. And I really enjoyed the classes that I taught. I had to go through all those classes myself, and I taught dual diagnosis, disorders and treatment, pharmacology of addictions, counseling theories and treatment planning, and I also taught a course in sexual relations and addictions. I was also, for about 18 years, a radio host in Daytona Beach with WAPN FM radio, where I had a live radio program once a week, and we took in callers, and I had guests, and the callers would talk about whatever issues they desired to bring up or ask questions about subjects that we were able to help them with. And you never know who's going to call and what they're going to say. So it was always a moment of excitement and anticipating who's going to call today. And I would encourage you also to let us know if you have questions. Email us, go to the link at the heading and contact us with your questions. Following week or a week later, I'll answer those questions. I'll answer them directly to you, but I'll also answer them on the air because there'll be others who would be interested in your questions. There's no stupid question. Don't believe that. Every question is important. So I'd like to hear those questions. Or even if you have a thought that you would feel others might be interested in hearing, I'll love to hear that as well. My previous experiences are interesting as well. I used to work as a therapist in a psychiatric unit, Humana Psychiatric Hospital. We had the entire fourth floor of the hospital was a locked psychiatric unit, an adolescent unit, and an addictions unit. And I helped in all three areas doing counseling or therapy at that time. And it was very interesting, learned a lot, but also during that time, I was a psychiatric aide for several psychiatrists once they got to know me. And they do that, they feel comfortable with someone and they ask you to come work for them part-time or help them out. And as a psychiatric aide, I learned a lot and I grew a lot as well. Helped me most of all in the psychiatric unit to learn about medications. I don't recommend medications without serious consideration of what the problem is, and then I refer to the psychiatrist or the primary care physician to consider if there is a need for medication. Most of my clients are going to turn to supplements, herbals. Very often those work fine, and if it's mild to moderate issues, those things are very helpful. And it's like brain food, it's body food, it feeds your cells, and it's very helpful. We'll be talking about that in another episode in a little more detail. I was Director of Counseling for House of Hope Daytona, and Director of Counseling for Church of God, White Chapel Church of God in Daytona Beach, Florida, South Daytona actually, where we had an academy. I believe the capacity of the academy was about 800 students. And so I counseled not only the church members, but students and families as well. My experience with families has been very, I guess, mind expanding, you might say, because when you see the system of a family, you realize that when one person has a problem, everyone has a problem. And so working on those issues helps everyone in the family to get well or feel better or to cope together in a better way. My professional affiliations is that I'm a diplomate with the National Board of Christian Clinical Therapists. I'm a professional clinical member of the National Christian Counselors Association. I'm also a member of the American Association of Christian Counselors, and a senior chaplain with the International Fellowship of Chaplains. And with my credentials in my ordination, I'm ordained with the International Fellowship of Chaplains, but my main ordination is through Church of God, Anderson, Indiana, where I'm also a pastoral care specialist. Well, I hope this was informative for you. Like I said, if you have questions, ask them. Don't be afraid. We'll answer every question. And if you have a thought, I'd like to hear your thought on things. Something may have helped you that I would like to hear so I could pass it along to help others. Let us know. And thanks for watching today.